Thanks, everybody. Hey, thanks for being here today. Welcome. I don't know what it's like in your part of the world, but we had about 64 degrees Fahrenheit on Saturday. It was beautiful. It was in short sleeves. And yesterday and today, we're at about 16 degrees, and it's snowing sideways out here. And we're supposed to get, I don't know, 3 to 5 inches of snow. So woohoo for spring. But life changes by the moment, doesn't it? Well, we'd like to welcome you to the Rising Phoenix business community. And we have people from several countries on. I'm glad you're here, and from around North America. And do you want to jump in here?
Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to troubleshoot. But I am Sandy Corrigan. You are?
I'm Tom Corrigan.
And Chuck Blakeman, where are you? Oh, there he is. Did you do that to Abby? Chuck, if you're talking, we can't hear you, so you might need to unmute yourself.
That's
Sorry about that.
There you are.
I'm interrupting this regularly scheduled broadcast to breathe this dog filled with helium. And then here's my other favorite one. There's a couple in here. We have to share this one as well. This is good news. Wildlife is returning to the world around us. Stay tuned, be patient. This is worth waiting for. Where is it? Wildlife returning to the world around us. Okay, let me do this.
You got quite the collection there.
Yeah, you got to keep the world funny even when the tough things are happening.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Can't find it. I'll come back to you with it.
Okay. Feel free to jump in at any point in time. Well, kind of.
Yeah. So you guys can send us you can send grow@3to5club.com your funny memes and videos so that we can share yours on Monday mornings.
So yeah, whatever you send us, think about that it could be shared worldwide. So anyways, you done here? Okay, great. Let me give you a quick rundown of what we're going to do today and why you're here. First, we have something visionary and inspirational from even beyond funny from Chuck, and I have a few things to share myself. Then we're going to have a couple people on sharing their story about how they've made a shift in this environment to continue to reach people and maybe even expand into their market. Then we have a bottleneck segment, as Sandy mentioned, and we'd love to have you join us on that. If you're in this time, in this year, have had to make a shift because of the circumstances we're under or the restrictions that we're under, and you found a way to make a shift to better serve your clients or to continue to maintain or grow your business, or you've got a big challenge in doing so, you're just not sure how to do that, and you'd like to bring that to the group, we have a little process we'll lead you through, and then we'll invite everybody who's on here to give you some insights and ideas. So sometimes it's our lack of understanding of what you're up against that gives us the greatest wisdom, because we're not all clogged up with all your details. And then we'll have a special segment. Chuck's going to give you a little update on where we're at with the Survival Guide. And if you haven't seen it, we're on version 4 already in under a week and a half.
Yeah, we put the first version out last Friday last, and 8 days later, we're on version 4.
And you just said in the next couple of days, version 5's coming.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So if you've landed on, somebody sent you the latest, greatest, wonderful guide on how to access, money, and it's over 4 days old, it's already way behind time.
And you can forward that guide to other people, but what's really best is to get them to just go to the Rising Phoenix Business Community.com website and have them sign up, because then they'll be always sent the latest version rather than you have to keep track of everybody.
There it is.
There it is. Yep. So you can download it right there. Put your email. We're not going to spam you or sell you stuff.
Nope.
So you can, know that this is our way of giving back and helping people during this time.
Yeah, we just want you to have the most recent version of this. That's all. And so we can automatically send it out to you because they're going to come out every 2 or 3 days for weeks.
And thank you, Chuck, for doing all the research. And we've been sending Chuck stuff. So if you find something really amazing, send it to Grow.
Yeah, I want you all to know I'm taking a hit for you. I'm actually watching the news so that I can find this crap. So, I need healing. I need some kind of shield because I'm actually watching the news, but I kind of have to watch the news to find out the newest, latest, craziest, best thing that's coming out. So we're after this.
Which is why we need to send you funny things too.
And I recommend to everyone, do not do what I'm doing.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the hit for us there.
Thanks, Chuck.
And towards the end of this time, we're going to go back to you and ask you for a blinding flash of the obvious. It's we call a BFO. That is there an aha today? Did you the light turn on for you? And do you have new understanding of how to move forward? Because that's really what this is about. This whole show is done to help you move forward and keep you on track and keep you off the couch in front of Netflix, so that you're actually moving your business forward into the world. So that's what we're about. And Sandy, why do we call this Rising Phoenix?
So some of you are new on the call probably this morning. And when we got together and threw this website up quickly and said, what can we do to help people thrive, not just survive during this time? We thought that mythical bird, the phoenix, was just a great example. That bird in mythology lives about 100 years and then basically settles into the nest, and the nest is burnt up, and that old version is burnt up and a new one emerges. And so I think we're all hoping, we're all believing, we're all working in that way, so that instead of just surviving or going backwards, we're saying, what can we do during this time to really thrive? How can we be stronger? How can we be better? How can we be more loving? How can we be able to impact the world in a more significant way? How can we take more market share, do more for our families, love our neighbors better? And so that Phoenix Rising is a great example of that.
The Crankset Group and 3 to 5 Club are geared totally towards you, the small business owner. And so I'd encourage you to go and look at that. We have other resources available, but you want to...
Can you start with Tom? Can we start with Tom?
Sorry.
We're going back to Chuck.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Okay, I found it. Wildlife finally returning to the Thames.
Oh.
Nature is healing. Woohoo!
And did you see that? Did you see the great Facebook Live, Chuck, with the Prime Minister that has recovered and did a very inspirational speech, named first responders and nurses firsthand for caring for him? It was pretty inspirational. If you haven't had a chance to see the little message from Boris.
Well, I've just got a couple of things I want to share that are inspirational, because the purpose of this call every Monday morning is to get our week started with the right mindset. Because there is pretty much 99% of what's being thrown at us right now is we'll all be killed. Some of us more seriously than others, but we'll all be killed. And it's just, it's a disaster movie. You kind of feel like you look outside and you feel like you're living in a biker movie. It's Mad Max out there. It's just, there's nobody around. It's every man for himself. And it just doesn't have to be that way. So I just want to give us a perspective. And it's one of the reasons we want to bring you these stories of people who are shifting and using this to get where they go, where they need to go. Let's use the recession, the roller coaster downdraft of the recession. Let's use that downdraft of the recession to go down as fast as we can, so we can come up as fast as we can. A reminder of Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor. He saw many, many people, friends of his, die in the concentration camps because they just gave up. And he saw others live because they did not give up. And one of the things he wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, applies today like no other time other than times like that. Everything can be taken from a person but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's way. I think that's just a powerful reminder for us. We have everything to be taken from us except our ability to choose what we want to live our lives through. And so one of the things we've said for years, again, some of these things become really important in times like this. Circumstances don't make me who I am. How I respond to them does. Let me say that again. Circumstances don't make me who I am. How I respond to them, that's what makes me who I am. So we have a choice. Viktor Frankl says, we may not have a lot of choices. In a concentration camp, you have almost none, but we still have a choice to choose our own way and to figure out how to use the roller coaster on the way down to accelerate, to use this to be busier than one-armed wallpaper hangers, reinventing ourselves. I'm telling you, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we will be looking back. You will not believe the amount of innovation that came out of this. Why? Because survival is the strongest of instincts. So let's not whine about it. Let's use it and say, okay, I need to survive. How do I reinvent myself or us in order to get where we need to go? Here's a couple of books you could read to help you with that during that time. The Art of Possibility by Zander and Zander. It's a great little book. It's a thin little book, and you can see I've used it. You can see all the pages in there that have been used. And then a classic, Who Moved My Cheese? Somebody moved our cheese. We didn't move our cheese, but somebody moved our cheese. Well, it's well read. We should read it again. And you might have others that you want to read like that. I think another one that I'll pull off the shelf again next week, but I think I'll mention it right here. Self-Made in America. If you think you got problems, I want you to read about this Vietnamese guy who came to America. And if you don't get welled up in tears, I'm getting welled up just thinking about it, and I read it 10 years ago. Self-Made in America. Tremendous inspirational little book about being relentless, because that's going to be the story of our lives for the next 6 months to who knows how long. We need to be relentless, and we need to go after it. So that's my encouragement today. Let's scream going over the top of the roller coaster, and then let's accelerate on the way down and use it to come back roaring. Tom, back to you.
By the way, if you are watching a Netflix movie, just to piggyback on that, there's a great movie called Self-Made. It's a series, 5 series with Octavia Spencer. It's based on a true story of how she is an African-American woman, created a hair product, and talk about relentless. It's a very inspiring, real kind of movie. So you want to watch something, watch that.
Sandy, if you get time, maybe not now, but post that as a link, or if somebody else can grab it.
Thanks, you guys.
Yes, and I will type out the quote.
What do you say?
He'll type
somebody,
up the
I want to just
Okay,
read
great.
and give
Thank
us
you.
the title of books. Yeah, we'll put
perfect.
those in there.
Just a couple of quick, part of this is to stir you up. And because if we're looking to do things the way we were doing things in January, you're probably stuck for some of you. I mean, that's probably why you're on here. Either the restrictions or the threat of illness is changed us and changed the way we do business. So we're either just going to sit down and wait for the end, or we're going to get creative. And here's a couple of really small nuggets about creativity that we've seen just locally. We actually drove. I know we broke the law, but we have three grandsons that live 35 minutes away. We haven't seen them. I haven't seen them, for over a month. And we heard that the neighborhood kids, the older kids, were going to go door to door and hide Easter eggs in people's front yards. And then they called it
Ding Dong Ditch.
Ding Dong Ditch. So they were going to ring the doorbell and run away. And so we were standing on the sidewalk waiting for our grandsons to come out.
And they were glow in the dark
Yeah.
Easter eggs.
And so it was darn near dark when it happened. It was incredible because the kids across the street decided we're going to still help these little guys experience that part of Easter. Also, our neighborhood is checking in with each other when we go shopping, when we have to go shopping, and saying, what do you guys need? And so Saturday, we swapped some paper towels for some diet tonic that somebody found that was essential for us. And then we have a thing that's happening. I guess it's not local, but it sure is happening here.
And so even though we live in the country on 5+ acres, every night at 8 o'clock, our community goes outside. And I know my daughter's neighborhood too. And I think Megan's, yours does too. Maybe raise your hand if you guys are participating, that everybody goes out and howls, and not just howls at the moon, but howls in appreciation for what first responders, people on the front line, and really to encourage everybody that, hey, we're still here. We're still here for each other. So anybody doing that in your neighborhood, raise your hand here.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, maybe you can start it.
Finally, there's a story not too far from here. An 80-year-old couple went to the grocery store and sat in the parking lot for 45 minutes waiting for the right person to come by because they were freaked out about the idea of going into the grocery store because they're at risk. And they watched people come and go, and then finally honked at a woman and said, can you come over here? And they cracked the window that far, and she shoved a list and a $100 bill out the window and said, we can't go in there. Is there any way you could go shopping for us? And they were afraid that somebody was going to grab the $100 bill and, of course, walk off. This lady went back in the store because they found her coming out of the store with her groceries, loaded them up, gave them back the chain, and they were both sitting there weeping and said, we knew we found the right person when we reached out to you. And thinking, somebody just went beyond themselves. They had to go back in the store the second time. And it's kind of a selfless act for somebody else who was at risk. And those things really move me because in this moment, there's a lot of garbage going on. There's a lot of chicanery. There's a lot of people trying to take advantage. But I think it's way outweighed by the compassionate and empathic things people are doing for one another.
That's beautiful.
Over to you, Sandy.
So we have a couple great stories, and Kim, you're on or in.
Woohoo!
Hello. Unmute yourself. She said she was in. Oh, there she
you
is.
are.
I think I'm on.
Kim.
Yay. Kim had problems getting on her video because she switched phones, but I met Kim Beaver, who is the owner, and she calls herself the chief bottle washer of a boutique near where I live called Skadoodles, who has the cutest stuff. In fact, I keep telling her, we're not driving or eating out or, entertaining as much. So we need to have like a little happy hour where you show us cute stuff, Kim. So I'm still trying to get her to do that because her shop is closed right now. But Kim has 2 employees that work in her store, and that enables her also to spend time on her side job, which is she's a personal chef. And that work started over 20 years ago when she ran her gourmet sauce company in Castle Rock, Colorado. So she's been busy preparing meals for people who pay her to do that. And she's also kind of just a giver in our community, because I know she'll drop off extra food for people who need it. And so with this coronavirus going and businesses closing, she's been busier and has altered her personal chef offerings. So welcome, Kim. And
Thank you.
a little about how it's going, even though you were frustrated with switching phones and trying to get in on Zoom this morning. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Well, I kept on. I didn't give up. That was my thing. So come hell or high water, I was going to be on here. I was going to figure this out. And I still have to figure it out. But that's the tech side of the business that is probably obviously not my forte. But I will figure it out by the next meeting. It's going good. I think I kind of have found, with neighbors or people in the community that I know through, I volunteer for ECHO, which is Elbert County Coalition for Outreach. So a lot of times there are seniors who call in or they need help. And so I feel my part in helping the community is there's some people that I just drop off meals to that can't go out and maybe don't have the funds, but they're too proud to ask. And so I just kind of say, well, this is extra and this is no biggie. Don't worry about it. And anyway, that's just something I feel like everybody, I think, wants to help somehow. They just don't know how. And when you find a little niche that you can help, that just kind of works. So I am busy still cooking for my regular clients, and we just set it up where I drop off once a week, and that's it. Kind of do a door drop off deal, and except for one of my clients, I go in and I set it up for him because he's got double knee replacement, but make sure that I have my mask and I'm all detoxed, and I drop it in and unload and get out of there. So that's kind of how life is, how it's looking right now, regular. So I'm just happy that with my store in normal mode, I'm able to still do that kind of stuff, which I enjoy.
So the big shift for you has been that did your clients used to come and pick up the food from you, and now you're doing a ring?
I actually
A ditch, yeah. Ding dong ditch.
I used to actually go to their houses. A lot of them, so some of them I would go 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and generally go to their house. I would do the grocery shopping, go to their house and prepare everything and load up their refrigerator. And some clients, I would be there all day. Some I would only be there for a couple hours. I would just prepare dinner and then maybe a fruit tray and a vegetable tray that would last their kids till the next time that I came. And that's how it was. So it all got switched with the coronavirus, that now I prep everything off site and I drop it off. So I have disposable containers, and some of my clients like to save their containers, so they wash them, but then I also bring them home and rewash them. And I have bins that I keep each client's stuff in so they don't get mixed up and get somebody else's used, because they want them, they're washable storage containers. So, so it's kind of changed a little bit, but we got creative.
Kim, you also told me that you have kept on your 2 employees, even though the store is closed. And so how did you come to that decision? How are you able to do that?
Well, 2 of my employees, one of my employees is in her 70s, and she works for me very part-time, but it supplements her Social Security. So hers, basically was around $300 a month. And so my other one is more full-time. And so right now I'm able to give them a little bit of the pay, not their full pay. But both of them have circumstances where they didn't count on their work with me as their sole income. And my more full-time employee, her husband is retired, so hers was just kind of extra money. So they've cut back as well, but I've kind of just paid them as I could, depending on how things are. My most important thing is to be able to continue rent, because also my landlord is a senior, and he is they're just going into Social Security, and so he can't waive my rent, and I don't expect him to. So I want to make sure that I can pay the rent, pay whatever bills goes with the store for now, and then if I can, then I can throw a little bit extra towards my employees. And I am gonna I did talk to my bank about applying for the that payroll deal, so we'll see how that goes. As of yet, they haven't gotten the paperwork from the feds to be able to do that. So, but one employee I've had for 15 years. The other one has worked for me since I moved to the business to Elizabeth, and she's been with me for 3 years. So they don't really want to go anywhere, and I like to try to take care of my employees because they in turn take care of me. So.
Well, thank you, Kim. And I love that you're part of our county. We live in a county that has about 26,000 people and 43,000 horses. But we are an economically challenged county is the way that I'll put it. And so Kim is on the board for the Elbert County Coalition Outreach, and that's part of how we met. So Kim, I love your heart and your sacrifice and you upping what you can do. And so we really appreciate you being here this morning and inspiring all of us to see how we can stretch the gifts and talents we have. So thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Well, thanks for having me.
And Kim, put your contact information in the chat, okay?
Yeah, for your store,
Okay.
and if you want any more personal chefs,
Yes.
the way you described it, I'm thinking we probably need to talk to you about signing
And
up.
when this is done and we have a freaking big party on our patio, we're calling you to make the food.
Sounds good. Well, I actually have some clients that they just do one dinner a week. That's kind of, they call it their date night, that they don't have to go anywhere, and I just drop off their dinner already ready to go. It's already warm. So you can have it ready to put in the oven yourself, or it's ready to go when I drop it off. So that's what they do. I just work, I figure out my calendar, who I can fit in where, but it usually works. But thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Let me introduce our second guest this morning, Tom Kimball. He's the owner of Kimball Productions, along with his son Ben, since 2006. Tom's had a long history in the creative area, and we wanted to make sure we reach into different segments and different silos. And I think Tom represents today some of the arts, but Tom's worked as a creative director and producer in film, television, and theater in Denver, as well as in the U.S. Air Force. Prior to that, Tom has produced and directed and performed in professional film, television, and theater since 1976. That's a long time.
And he played opposite Dick Van Dyke. Woohoo!
That's fun. Tom also published a book, his first book, That's How I Remember It. And that book is being adapted for broadcast. And so Tom combines his artistic and communication skills to tell stories that inspire wonders for individuals and corporations. Is that correct, Tom?
That's right.
Tom, thanks so much for taking the time being with us. Tom, we share membership in 3 to 5 Club with us, and so we've come to appreciate him close up. Tom, could you describe your business a little bit prior to Corona, and then what's happened since?
So pre-Corona, Ben and I were doing a lot of corporate publication and broadcast and production. A lot of that was B2B stuff, business to business for industrial clients. One of our major clients is a continuing medical education company out of Philly. We have a couple of CME clients. And so what we do is we travel around the world, and we take, we have a studio, we'll travel, we pack it up in like 7 large cases and roll them through the airport with a small crew. We set up in hotel rooms during a medical meeting or conference, and then the doctors come into our little mini studio. Ben likes to call it ESPN for doctors. And so then we do panel discussions and case studies and patient-doctor interviews. And then that is packaged together, edited, and then delivered to the CME client, who is accredited. And then it goes up on Medscape or a number of other CME outlets, and healthcare professionals around the world will sign in and get their CME credit watching the videos that we produce. When all of this kind of hit the fan, of course, all of these conferences, and the first one that canceled was a conference in Philadelphia of immunologists. So, when the doctors who are immunologists run for the hills, so things are not so good. So each one of the conferences is a big chunk of money for us, and a large part of what we do. So here we were, not allowed to fly into a conference, not going to be anybody there. We couldn't fly individual. That was our first thought, was to fly an individual producer, director, shooter out to interview the faculty. That these are all doctors usually. And so we were kind of sitting here stuck, and Ben had bought a couple of Hero 8 GoPros, and we got to thinking and chatting about it, and we developed what we call now a remote video capture kit, an RVC kit, because everybody loves acronyms. That's from my military background, sorry. But each one of those comes in a case like this. Let me see if I can make sure you can see this. So yeah, it is a gun case. And it's padded up, and it's got a list of the gear on the inside, and each kit contains the elements to set up a video, which I'll post the link to how you set it up. so you guys can go and look at that. Ben is the on-camera talent for that. But what we are now doing, and we went back to our CME clients, of course, we were only involved in, I think, 3 meetings. They had 28 or 30 that were canceled. So each one of those probably accounted for probably over $180,000 worth of business, each one of those for them. So they do live stuff as well as the pre-recorded video. So we went back to them and said, hey, we have an idea how we can send these kits out to doctors. And we made it doctor proof so that they could operate it, and we could get video production or video footage back that was high quality and shot in 4K. If it's shot in 4K, then we can edit and push in and frame the shots however we want. So if a doctor records it and he's way back in the screen like that, we can push in on his face and make him look handsome. But we can also control the outcome. If we were to record a Zoom call, we don't know what we're going to get. You can see, just if you scan the gallery, you can see some faces and some faces you can't. Some people are backlit, some people are lit from the side, some have brightness in behind them. Whatever the case may be, it's all over the map in terms of the quality of the video. So what we wanted to do was provide our clients with a finished product that each one of the faculty members who would discuss their case studies in a group like this, but be recorded offline. Then we bring it back here, and the secret sauce is that we edit it together and look like they were sitting in a studio together as much as we can.
Nice.
So a great solution for them, a good solution for us, because while we were only involved in 3 of the 28 meetings that were canceled, we're now probably going to be doing production for all of them, which obviously, if you do the math, that's almost 10 times the business we thought we were going to do, and we don't have to travel. So there is something to be said of what Chuck said, living a life of abundance. One of the other things I wanted to mention about that was we had a really great year last year, and the temptation was, as a small business owner, is to spend some of that money, which we did, on infrastructure and better equipment, but we wouldn't have had the money in place to invest almost $20,000 in new equipment. That's without any help from the SBA. Now, I spent 23 years in the military. I have absolutely no faith that they're going to get their act together with this federal support. Now, that's obviously not going to be true. Some people are going to get help. I'm not counting on it. I just don't trust it. And so we haven't heard back in any of our applications. We did apply, but we're taking the attitude that, hey, we've discovered something that's going to work for our clients and it's going to work for us. So we're spending a majority of our energy on that. And it's kind of fun too, because helping, as Jim Martini knows, as helping our clients to return to joy by giving them an option, to do something positive and make hay while the sun is up. So
Nice.
that's kind of our story. If you want to see one of the kits, I'll walk into where this used to be a bedroom, but is now there's Ben. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Ben.
And we're just building. We built about 16 kits, and we got some to go out this morning, and we've got another 4 to build. So we'll have about 20 kits, and it's not just for medical clients. We're open to. We had another colleague who lost some business and wanted to rent one of our kits and ship it out to a client of his in Texas. So,
Hey, Tom, did you have any problem convincing clients this is a good way to go, or getting them to make the jump with you?
Not at all. In fact, when we introduced the idea, we had gone ahead and made a sample video of what the end result would look like. So we weren't just talking about pie in the sky. And again, I'll share all these links with you all so you can look at it. But we wanted to demonstrate it first. So we tested all the gear before we actually brought it up to them. We have, with that particular client, Tom, we have about a 10-year relationship with. So we have a preferred vendor status with them. So we're pretty fortunate that, you know, if we suggest something, they tend to listen. But we waited until we had it together, sent them the samples, and they were pretty much crying.
That's great.
Hey, Tom, can you put your contact information in the chat box so people
Yes,
can
ma'am.
ask more questions and see how much it costs, and, you know, maybe businesses would like to implement this.
Great shift.
Yeah.
Tom, very
Fabulous.
inspirational that
Yeah.
you not only just shifted, but you've actually and grown your market. So good for you, and thanks for sharing with us today. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, I just want to say it's, you know, the Marines talk about it in terms of improvising, adapting, and overcoming. But it also, I think, is that attitude that Chuck was talking about. I love the Stonewall Jackson quote where he says, "My religious belief teaches me to feel as safe in battle as in bed. God has fixed the time for my death. I do not concern myself about that, but to be always ready, no matter when it may overtake me. That is the way all should live, and then all would be equally brave." So I hope that we're being brave, and if we can be helpful to you all, we're here to help move you forward, as Chuck says.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you.
Bet.
If I just want to remind you guys, if you have inspiring stories yourself or find inspiring stories, please go to that Rising Phoenix business community and submit your story to us. If you have bottlenecks, we want to know so that we can continue to feature things that inspire and help us think bigger.
Yeah, and we'd love you to put some of that out on this. We'll read some, but encouraging stories that you've heard or links to encouraging stories. We just want you to go into your week thinking, yeah, there's something good I can do this week to get this moving.
Great.
So I put in the chat box, if you have a bottleneck, which is an issue, challenge, or opportunity, this is the chance for the wisdom of over 50 people to help you this morning. So anybody going to jump in and have a bottleneck this morning?
And we assume this is a safe place. So the question isn't, does anybody have a bottleneck? The question is, which one of us would like to share one of the 27 bottlenecks we all have? Because
so Paul, how about a bottleneck,
you
man?
willing to go live here, Paul?
Okay, so unmute yourself,
Thanks,
Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
nice.
We need to unmute.
Air applause for Paul. Air applause for Paul.
Yay, everybody clap for Paul. And we're going to give you a minute to describe, and then 2 minutes to ask questions, and then 3 minutes to rain ideas on you. So
Sure.
I'll go ahead and time you. So go ahead and tell us what your issue, challenge, or opportunity is.
Sure. Okay, so I'll try and keep this succinct and maybe just read a little bit of what I put in the chat box. So I'm a solopreneur, basically, in many ways. So I help with production management, but I have a nonprofit that's part of the 3 to 5 Club that helps churches produce events and coach worship leaders and that kind of stuff. And then I also have another video company that helps with churches to do media work and all that kind of stuff. I'm struggling with chasing every squirrel that this crisis has introduced. And I'm really wired to really love new ideas, and I can see a lot of opportunities, but I'm starting to feel really overwhelmed and fighting to stay engaged. So that's kind of a little bit of my MO. And I work really hard to a certain point, but then I'm just like, man, I'm feeling overwhelmed to the challenge. And then I start to kind of pull back. My question is, how do I keep from desperation from hijacking my energy? And also, I know I overestimate what I can accomplish in a day, but how do I set, or what do you do to set reasonable expectations for yourself?
That's a good one for
any
all of us.
That would be great.
Great. So now we have 2 minutes to ask questions, and you can jump in or put them in the chat box. So we're going to give you 2 minutes and ask you some questions.
Yeah, and you can hit your space bar and check in that way as well. Just hit your space bar. That'll make you live for just a second. So either way. Questions for him?
Have you been working with churches on doing a lot of the remote worship and services and things that have been going on?
Yeah, one church in Thornton, I've been helping them set up sort of a live streaming studio, and then a company, it's a nonprofit called Youth for Christ. They had a big event that was supposed to happen at the beginning of April, and they pivot. So I was able to help them reach far more than people. They typically have about 38, 40 people come to a fundraising dinner, and they were able to reach about 200 people in 2 days, over not just regionally but nationally. And so there's more opportunities there that as they're canceling fall events and stuff like that. Yeah.
Rob asked, are there other ideas you're having related to your core mission?
I really think, I know this sounds really strange, but this is going to be a catalytic event for anybody in church. Because it really depends on people getting into a space. But in my opinion, there may have needed to be some structures and some habits that really needed to go away entirely. And this is a kind of crisis that really helps that. And so I think there's a lot of fear for people what they're going to do without a church service. So the ideas are this can be much more intimate and much more personal for people who want to engage with church in the future, that I think, without going off on a tangent, it's actually very exciting. It's just also really daunting and time consuming. So.
Thank you, Paul. And now we're going to rain ideas on Paul, and Paul's going to take some notes. And so we're going to give him whatever ideas come to us to help him with this.
And I just want to say this is a great bottleneck for all of us. We all have this bottleneck right now. We got so many things going through our heads. It could be good ideas, bad ideas. How do we sort this stuff? How do we make this happen? So thanks for bringing this one up, Paul. You're going to be the beneficiary, but we're all going to figure this one out together because this is huge.
Hey, Paul, this is Tom Kimball. I think Ben and I just were chatting, and of course we know you pretty well. I think to help you focus is if you could partner with people who are doing some of the other things that you get distracted from, like chasing those nuts, so that you can like chase the one nut that you're really good at. And in fact, I'll send you David Akili. I'll email you David Akili's information. He's a guy that's doing some of that stuff now. That's the streaming side of things. So kind of help you stay in your wheelhouse by surrounding yourself with people who are already doing some of the other stuff. So you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. You can focus on what Paul is amazing at.
I have an idea. This is Matt Strebe. I was invited by Carrie, kind of new to the group. I'm up in Minnesota. So just maybe a networking idea. Which is our church at Substance. I don't know if you've heard of Substance up in Minnesota, but basically when the Corona thing came out on a couple weeks ago, they put their service on streaming, and within the first week had 100,000 viewers, but they weren't set up for that necessarily to go live with the streaming, but all the resources are now at Substance online, and all the kids' resources. But there's a lot of churches doing this, but I think they've been very effective at doing that, and they just got a really good team. And it might be a good opportunity to, just to have a conversation with somebody there and see how they do it. And like I said, they've got a lot of ideas about how to do things, but there's potentially some synergy there. Their media team, their streaming, how do they keep their ideas focused? They've got 4 campuses, 1 in Mexico and 3 up in Minnesota, and they have just really been and they've got like I said, a great media team, like a lot of churches, but it's such a growing church that they did a church service at Christmas time, and they used the same technology that the Lord of the Rings was made on for their media, like their videography equipment. So I mean, they're very much in tune to what's new and what's attractive to the 20 to 35-year-old segment, and really, I'm not in that segment, but anyway, just thought for your reference, maybe if you need me to put you in touch with somebody, I'm more than willing to.
Thank you.
Paul, or John Hokama wrote, I just wrote a blog for business owners on setting up a rhythm for these times. I think take a look at that in the chat room as well.
Good. Thank you, John. Good
There's
to
some
see you.
ideas in the chat room, Paul, that you might want to grab. So
And we'll save it and send it to
Yeah.
you as well.
great job. So we want to check in with Marlon. Marlon's on the call, and Marlon, you did a bottleneck last week. And so were there any of those suggestions you moved on? Kind of give us an update. Well, he was there. Maybe he jumped off. Marlon? Oh, maybe he's on. Well, we'll get an update from him and let you know. Maybe he just stepped away.
You know, one more idea for all of us on this stuff is just it is a simple but not easy path of prioritization. You know, here's 10 good ideas. Well, which one's the best? Well, which one energizes you the most? Which one will solve the most other problems? I like to look at that. If I hit number one, that'll help me with 3, 7, 9, and 11. But prioritization and then just realizing, I think Tom Fanning basically put in here being okay with what's not finished, and just being complete with that. It's okay that you don't have this all figured out. But the worst thing we can do is get professionally confused, because when I'm confused, I'm not responsible. So I don't know what to do because there's so many good ideas, or there's so many bad things that could happen. We mentally and emotionally punch out doing that when we say, I don't know what to do because there's so many good or bad things that could happen. We can't go there. Pick one. Throw a dart if you have to, but prioritize as best you can. Grab something and run with it. And you hear us say this all the time: planning does not create movement. Movement creates the plan. So if you want to figure out what the top thing is to do, well, figure out what you think is the top thing to do, and if it isn't, it'll lead you to that. But if you sit in your chair and try and figure out the top thing to do, it's never going to happen. So that's my rant. I feel better.
It really does paralyze us. Chuck, would you give us a quick update on the survival guide and where we're at with that and what we can expect?
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that we all understand that this thing is of value to us, even for those of you who are not in the U.S. Probably 50% of what's in this thing is really going to be of value to you, maybe more than that. So, and the reason we're having you sign up for it again is because it's going to be changing so rapidly. The government hasn't figured this thing out yet. I still think there's going to be a tectonic shift in the way the government and the way private business is adapting to this whole thing. And so we're going to have to be, speed of execution is the number one indicator of early stage success. So we just want to stay ahead of the curve. We put out version 1 last Friday. Version 4 came out Friday, and version 5 will probably come out tomorrow. So there's brand new things in each version, and they're color coded, so you don't have to remember what you read before. Just it's color coded, so it's brain dead easy. You can take a look at what came out in the first next things. And I'll say one of the new things that came out just a couple of days ago is the Treasury Department has put together another $2.3 trillion package. Part of that is what they call the Main Street Lending Program. Do not be fooled. That is not a small business program. I truly believe they named it that so that small business people wouldn't get mad. It's a minimum $1 million loan, and you have to have had at least $250,000 in profit last year. Profit, not revenue, profit, to even begin to apply for it. So this is for giant corporations, and it says up to 10,000 people. Originally, it was going to be for businesses with no less than 500 people. But they took that off of there because, again, they knew it would take all the rest of us off. And they named it cleverly the Main Street Lending Program, and it has nothing to do with Main Street. So if you're one of those companies that made $250,000 last year, cool. This will apply to you. The rest of us just walk by. There's nothing for you to see here.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Chuck.
And yeah, go to the risingphoenixbusinesscommunity.com site, sign up if you haven't already, and then we'll give you updated versions. So we like to hear from you. And so we want you to share your, what we call BFOs, which are your blinding flash of the obvious. So kind of your aha, or what you're going to take away, or what were you reminded of today. And we'd love for you to unmute yourself and jump in. You can click in the chat box as well. So what are some things from this call today that are going on for you that you're going to take away?
I appreciate.
Okay,
what
can
you
you
said.
hear me?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I have to say that sometimes it's easy to get stuck in a rut when there's so much going on, and I love the circumstances don't make me who I am. It's how we respond to them that does. That was a good one for me today. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Just being okay with what's unfinished. It's important. It's a good practice to be in. So that was a good reminder.
Thanks, Paul.
I think the thing for me was just don't sit in a chair and try and figure out the next best thing. Just attack it and go for it.
Thanks, Carrie.
Innovation. Can you hear me or not?
Tom can't hear you.
Can you
Tom
hear me?
Fanning can't hear you.
Can't hear me. Okay.
Yeah,
Just barely.
put it in the chat box, Tom, because
Yeah.
we can't hear you.
Just
Sorry.
Mark
barely.
said survival is the strongest instinct. Planning. William said planning doesn't create movement, right? Movement creates the plan.
We've always run kind of on a motto: if anything's worth doing, is worth doing wrong. Which means you got to start. You got to try things.
Yeah.
And sometimes you eliminate. Of course, we're not going to just pick anything and go. We're going to be wise, but you got to get moving.
Tom used to give away the Golden Chicken Award to the person who failed the most in a year. Maybe we need to re-implement that.
Lead the biggest egg, because they tried things.
Jean-Marc says everything can be taken from a human being, except one thing, the ability to choose your mindset.
Right. Anybody else?
For Paul, there one great one that I read in this book. It's called Action, and it's by Robert Ringer, and it says basically action. Nothing happens until something moves, and he describes getting overwhelmed, and that often happens to me as well. But I think that when you have a situation where you're overwhelmed, you got to just pick, as Chuck said, the one thing and just move with it. Just take action, and because if you stay looking at the list, you're stuck.
Thanks, John. And put that book in the chat if you would. Rob Sigmund, Don't Be a Labrador. Which one thing energizes you the most and helps you accomplish other big rocks? I would add to that, like what's going to give you an emotional hit right now in a good way, right? Because we need to stay energized and look forward to what we're doing. And Ann says, take away, make a list and prioritize.
And Tom says, love your neighbor. That's great. I would add, let's figure out how to lead ourselves out of fear, not into it. And anytime we're collapsing into to negative thoughts or fear about what could happen, grab one of those things on your list of all the things that could maybe get you to the right place and start working on, even if you're not sure. Get busy going somewhere. It is the movement that will create the plan. And so we just have to stay moving. Amar Baidi, former professor at Harvard, wrote in his book about entrepreneurship, 97% of people leave their prime objective. 97% of businesses leave their prime objective in order to be successful. And that's in good times. So I think it's probably closer to 99 now. So don't be afraid of that. We're all startups again. We have to take that mindset. Okay, wham, somebody moved my cheese. Grieve. I think there is a real need to grieve. But then you have to follow that as quickly as you can with figuring out how to move forward and look at the things that could happen. Think of yourself as a startup, how exciting it was. You didn't know anything. You weren't sure it was going to work. You wouldn't know how to make money. You weren't sure if your business was the right product, services. We're all there again. Let's grab it and run, because if you don't, the option is to hole up and hunker down, and that's not going to help.
Thanks, Chuck.
Guinness isn't the question, it's the answer. Yes, nicely said.
It's like that meme that's like, after this is over, am I going to Weight Watchers or AA first? Hopefully neither one.
That's right. Hey, some of the components of this hour are taken directly from what we do in 3 to 5 clubs. And it's built on 3 tenets. It's connection, community, and content. And if you'd like to check out a 3 to 5 club, they're all virtual right now. So you can join us from anywhere in the world. All you got to do is drop us a line at grow@Crankset Group or grow@3 to 5 Club, either one. And just say, hey, I want to join one. And we'll give you the options that are available, or you can look online at 3to5club.com and see when we meet. And we'll be glad to send you a Zoom link so you can join us from wherever. We are going to start a couple more permanently virtual groups too. So we're not geographically bound in any way, but we'd love to have you. And if you need more connection, more community like this is what this is built on.
And we have clubs in Ireland. Our Irish guys can raise their hands, right? And in Africa, and in Pennsylvania, and in Dallas, and in other places.
Minneapolis.
And always
Portland.
looking for people who want to bring it to their community.
There you go.
So I want to just end on a thought on community. And I thought this was kind of interesting. There's a Facebook page in Denver. Maybe there's one in your city also. But this one's called Help Needed in Denver Metro COVID-19. It has almost 12,000 members. And this is what somebody posted on the site this week. So it's a site where you can help others and ask for help. You're doing a good job. You are not alone. You will make it through even if someone helps you make it. You have worth. You are not a mooch. Be you. Give where you can. Accept help when needed with no shame. Do for those who depend on you. Just be honest with how you come by it. I know you're honest on how you come by stuff. It was the accept help with no shame part that made me want to share it with you. You have always helped people when needed, so please don't feel ashamed if you need to ask for it. Love you. And so this is a site where people are on there saying, this is what I need. And this is a site where people are on there saying, this is what I have to offer. And so if there's not a site like this, maybe you start one in your community or your city or your neighborhood or on Nextdoor or somewhere on a community site. Because we're going to get through this, but we're going to only do this well by doing it with each other. So this is a time that community matters more than ever. Thank you guys for being part of our community. We get to start our week being encouraged because you're willing to spend your hour with us. And so I just want to end with a quote by Albert Einstein, which is, in the middle of adversity, there is opportunity. There is great opportunity. Appreciate you.
Awesome.
Guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much for participating, and please bring other people with you. Everybody needs this start to their Monday mornings more than ever now. So let's create a worldwide community on this stuff. Appreciate you guys. Love you. Keep going. We're encouraging you, and you encourage us.